Hello, this is just a quick video to showcase how to export animations from Houdini to both Unity and Unreal Engine. I'm going to show you how to export these animations from a visual effects point of view. And what I mean by that is to just import the animations into the sequencing system in both game engines in order to render them to create shots and sequences. This is not from a gaming point of view. And what I mean by that is that we are not going to use any input system to trigger these animations. Okay, this is just from a visual effects point of view. So generally speaking, you would animate your characters or your props or vehicles or whatever it might be in a DCC package, either Maya or Blender or Houdini or whatever you prefer to use for animation. And then you take those animations into the game engines, you add them to your sequences, to your shots, and then you render everything out. Okay, so again, not using any input system to trigger animations here, which is obviously completely different if you want to do those things. But again, what I'm doing here is visual effects. So that's what I'm going to show you. So here in Houdini, I have this character. And this character is, if you know Houdini, there is this dummy character called Electra. And this character is a fully rigged character. So it has 3 outputs here. And this is, by the way, the character pipeline in Houdini. So everything should be the same. So basically, you would have the actual geometry. Then you would have your neutral pose rig, either like a pose or T pose or whatever neutral pose you prefer to use. And then you would have your actual deformation or animations, right? So you need these 3 components in order to do this thing. And again, this is just how characters work in Houdini. So you would have something like a FBX character import, for example. And as you can see, it has also the same 3 inputs, all right? So this is a standard Houdini workflow. So what I have here is this character, and for this character, I basically, I'm using 3 different animations. So what I'm doing here is just a retargeting, right? Because essentially what I got is these 3 animations. I have this character in an idle position here, kind of like waiting for a fight or something. Then I have another animation here, which is the character just running off screen. And I have another animation here, which is the character just jumping. Okay, so 3 different animations, but you can have as many as you want. So I'm not going to cover the retargeting process, and that is because I have another video on my YouTube channel already where I show you how to retarget animations from one rig to another rig using Maya and using Houdini. So if you watch that video, I cover that in detail, so there is no need to go through that again. But yeah, I tend to do my retargeting always in Houdini instead of other software like Maya or Animation Builder. Those are also good, but Houdini, I believe, is much better because you can basically create your workflow. You can convert this into a tool, and then if you need to batch process 100 different animations, you can do everything very quickly and very efficiently rather than doing it one by one. Okay, I guess in the other softwares you can do it as well, but you probably need to write some kind of scripts, and here you can do it all with nodes, so it's much faster. I need to look into how to do retargeting in Blender. I just looked into it a little bit because I'm using Blender more and more these days, but I don't think it's great for retargeting. Again, I haven't used it yet, so correct me if I'm wrong. But what I've read online or what I've seen online is that people rely on third-party add-ons in order to do retargeting, and I'm not a big fan of using add-ons. And also, again, the powerful of Houdini or the power of Houdini is that you can build a setup that is procedurally, you can reuse it, and you can batch process much quickly and much efficiently. So that's what I'm basically using Houdini, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But anyway, here I have my character, right? And this character comes with a rig, but my animations come with a completely different rig, right? So obviously we need to do the retargeting. And again, I'm not going to cover all of this, but essentially I have the same animation or the same rig in idle and T-pose. So this is exactly the same, but in T-pose, and same for the other animations, right? I have the run and the run in T-pose. and the jump and the jumping T-pose. And from there, essentially I can do a skeleton blend where I can blend from the T-pose or the neutral pose to the actual animation. Then I can do a rig match pose where I can match the pose of my rig, because unfortunately my rig is in A pose and this rig is in T pose, so I need to match that, but that takes literally 5 seconds. Then you need to map the points, so you map the points or the joints of one of the rigs to the other, so Houdini knows how to handle the animation. And then you transfer the full body IK animation, and then you can use a bond deform to look into all those things. So essentially what I exported to both Unity and Unreal is the actual character itself, right? So just the geometry of the character with the rig, and we do that by using a ROP FBX character output, and I just name it character FBX. And then I exported each of the retargeted animations also as an FBX. And this is just the animation, right? This is just the rig. It doesn't contain the actual geometry. And we have the idle animation exported over there. And then I exported also the jump and the run animation as well. So we want to double check that everything is working before going to the game engine, because sometimes things might not work in the game engine, and then you try to figure it out over there, and maybe what happened is that you exported something wrong. So it's better just to double check everything in Houdini before moving to the game engine. So you can do that by using FBX character import, right? So here we can select the exported character. So if I go here, character output, I have my character, all right? So this would be my character that I exported without materials or anything, because we can replicate that into the game engine. And then, if we do the FBX animation import, here we can import one of the clips. So we can take the idle animation, for example, and here we should see the animation, right? So essentially, now if I do bond deform, I can connect the geometry, I can connect the rest pose, and I can connect my animation. And now we can see that this is actually working, right? And we can check all the animations as well. So I can check the jump, and all of these should be working, right? So yeah, that's essentially how you export it. Again, I'm not covering the whole retargeting process, but as you can see, I just retarget the 3 animations over here. And again, I'm just reusing the same tree. So it's just skeleton blend, a rich match pose, map points and full body IK, and just a bond deform just to double check, but this is just for checking. You can just export this over here. Again, I have a video on my YouTube channel about how to do all of this from scratch. All right, cool. So let's jump into the game engines and see how we can deal with it. So let's start here in Unity. So this is my output from Houdini. Whoops. This is my output from Houdini. So I have my character and I have my 3 animation clips. So I'm just gonna create a new folder here, and I'm gonna call this one character, or whatever you wanna call it. And I'm gonna import my character and maybe my color texture, why not? So let me just create a quick material here. I'm going to call it character material, just to have like a visual representation of it. I don't really care that much. And I'm going to assign this base color. And if we take this character, so this is essentially the character that we exported from Houdini. Let me adjust a little bit this ground plane. There you go. And let me just assign this material there. So this is the character essentially. All right. Maybe we can make this a little bit bigger. Okay, cool. So for this character, it's actually very simple. With the character selected, first of all, I'm gonna go to rig. This is where you import your character. So in rig, and this depends actually, if you don't want to do anything with the animation clips, you don't really need to do anything here. But if you want to do some kind of blending between clips, it's probably better if you just select here the animation type to be humanoid, and here we can create the definition, the avatar definition from this model. So I'm going to click apply, and that's pretty much everything that we need to do in there. Now I'm gonna import, I don't know, maybe jump and run, for example. What we need to do here for each of the animation clips, first of all, if we go to animation, this is something that I forgot to do in Houdini. I didn't rename my clip, so it's just called clip 0, but we can rename it here in Unity. So we can call this one jump, all right, and apply the changes. And if we go to rig, here we're going to select humanoid as well, but instead of creating from this model, I'm gonna choose copy from other avatar, which is the one that we created before. So we should have it available here, which is this guy, right? We can apply, and that should be ready to be used. Let's do the same to the other animation clip. So I'm gonna call this one run, and same here. I'm gonna go to rig, humanoid, copy from other avatar, and I'm gonna select the character as well and apply. So now this should be all ready to go. Okay, so jump and run. We have both of them. All right, cool. Now, in order to animate this, and again, not from a game point of view, we don't want to trigger this with a controller. We want to use this as an animation clip for visual effects, essentially. So what I need to do is create a timeline. So I'm going to create an empty object just to hold my timeline, and I'm going to call it timeline, and we can basically reset the transformations there. And with the timeline selected, what we can do is we can go to window, animation, or actually sequencing timeline. All right, so we have this timeline, we can dock it somewhere. I'm gonna dock it like here. All right, and I'm going to, with this timeline holder selected, I'm gonna create a new timeline. We can, I'm gonna save it in characters, and I'm gonna call it timeline, whatever, that's fine. And I'm gonna lock this so I don't lose it, because if we select something else, we're gonna lose it. So I'm just gonna lock it in there. That's pretty much it. An important thing, obviously, is to change the frame rate to 24 frames per second. This is what we're using in Houdini, and this is usually what we use in film rendering. All right, so now I can just take the character, drag and drop over here, and add an animation track. Okay, cool. And now if, you know, we can just go to the run animation, for example, and drag the clip over here, and that's it. Now we have our running animation, right? Cool. I'm gonna move it out of the way because we could do the same with any other animation. I mean, we could add, obviously, a different animation track, or we can add it in the same track. So I'm gonna take the jump animation, put it over here, and now we get the character jumping around. All right, so this is essentially how you do it. Now, if you actually want to use these two clips together, right? Let's say we want to jump and then, we want to run and then we want to jump. If we do that, this is not really working, right? Because obviously the jumping is happening there and the running is happening there. But, and if you want to work with transitions, generally speaking in visual effects, we would do this in the DCC application, probably because it's easier for animators. They are used to work with DCCs and it's probably faster to do it there for them. But if you have two independent clips like this, you can actually blend them a little bit here in Unity. It's not going to be as perfect as it would be using a DCC and having access to the rig and all of that, but you can still do it here. So what we can do is to the second clip, we can right click here and we can say match offsets to previous clip. And when we do that, it's actually going to, you know, it's going to do the jump after the run. All right. So, you know, we get something that kind of works. All right, so it's as simple as that, really. All right, but again, from a visual effects point of view, this is something that you usually don't do in the game engine. You would do this in the DCC, but this is how you do it. Okay, so it's as simple as that. And of course, these are just clips, so you cannot really modify the animation here, but that's not really what we usually do. All right, so this is how you do it in Unity. Very, very simple. Okay, so now I'm here in Unreal. Again, it's an empty scene similar to what I had in Unity. So I'm gonna do essentially the same. I'm gonna create a new folder here. So let me just create a new folder. I'm gonna call it character. Go inside of this, and here I will do exactly the same. So I'm gonna drag and drop the FEX of the character. And when we do that, we get this pop-up window. And here we need to check a couple of things. So in skeleton, we need to make sure that this is empty. This would essentially allow us to use a skeleton that we already have in the scene, but we don't have one at the moment. So we are essentially creating one. This is exactly the same thing that we did in Unity. It's creating an avatar. In Unreal, it's called skeleton instead of avatar, but it is essentially the same thing. We need to double check also, and this should be by default, but just in case, here in skeletal meshes, make sure that this import skeletal meshes is actually enabled. All right, so let's click on import, and that should give us, you know, Unity creates all these things here. Sorry, Unreal creates all these things here. So we have a skeletal mesh, an animation sequence, a physical asset, and a skeleton. So all of this needs to be part of the actual character, right? But we don't really need to do anything to this. Okay, so we can take the skeletal mesh into the viewport. So I'm going to drag and drop over there, and I'm going to reset the transformations. And this is essentially the character. All right. In the same way that we did in Unity, we can just create a quick material here. I'm going to call it character material. Go inside, and let me just also bring my texture. I'm going to drag and drop the texture over here, and I'm not going to bother to create a material instance or anything. I'm just going to connect that color over there just to have something here, and I'm going to assign it to my character. All right, so we have something to look at. All right, cool. So now we need to take the animations, right? So let's do one by one. I'm gonna take the run animation over here, and we get essentially the same window that we had before. But now, if we go to skeleton, and as you can see, it has selected the skeleton automatically. I guess that's because it is the only one we have in the scene, but otherwise we can just select it. All right, and this is the one that we created before when importing the avatar. So that's pretty much everything we need to do here. So we can just click on import, and if we double click here, you know, now we can actually preview the animation here. We can see that it's working. There are operations that you can do to the animations, both in Unity and Unreal. Like, you know, you can clean the animations, you can do resample, and a few more operations, but we don't really need to do anything. So I'm going to do the same for the jump as well. And again, make sure that it's using the character skeleton. Okay, import, double check, and yeah, this is also working, right? Okay, good. Great. So now we need to add a sequencer. So we go here, add level sequence. We can save it anywhere. So I'm gonna already save it here, and you can name it whatever you want. I'm just gonna keep the default name, new level sequence. All right, and now we have our sequence here. So the first thing is the same thing that we did before. Make sure that we are always working with 24 frames per second, which is what we use in films. And now we can take our character. There is 2 characters here. Why is that? Okay, what is this? I'm not sure. Okay, I think I did something by mistake. I probably... Okay, let me delete that one. Maybe I made a mistake somewhere. So I'm gonna rename that to character. All right, cool. So I'm gonna drag and drop this character over here. And now we have, we have the usual playback controls here. So if we go to animation, right? If we click here, now we can see that we have the animations available for this skeleton. So if we choose run, we should see the character running. Okay, that's working. So let me delete that for a second. And now we can check the jump. And this is also working. All right, good. So yeah, that's essentially how you do it. If you want to blend between those animations in the same way that we did in Unity, you can do it as well. So you can choose the run, for example, and you can then use the the jump. So if you do something like this, we have the same issue that we have in Unity, right? That is jumping, obviously, because the starting point of the jump animation is different than the end point of the run animation. So if you want to fix that, again, without using blueprints or anything, just for visual effects purposes, you can do a similar trick that we did in Unity. But again, ideally, you don't want to do this in a game engine. You want to do this in a software where you have full control over the rig. You can actually modify the animations, right? Because you can have access to the rig both in Unity and Unreal. But I don't think this is something we want to do, and especially animators, they definitely don't want to do that in a game engine. We can cover that in another video if it's interesting for you guys. But I mean, I don't see it happening often in a visual effects studio, right? I mean, animators wouldn't want to do that. Okay, so what we can do is essentially the same. So we can right-click in this jump animation, and it's not exactly the same as in Unity. Here we need to select a bone, right? So here we can say match with this bone in previous clip, and I think I want to match. If we go here, the left foot, right? This is the one that is in contact. So here I'm going to do match, and I'm going to find the left foot that I think is called foot L. There you go. And now we have the same thing that we had in Unity, essentially, right? So if we press play, we should have that. All right, and it's kind of doing the best job that it can do. It's never going to be as good as, again, tweaking the animation properly. But yeah, again, this transition is not something that we would want to do. So yeah, essentially this is how you handle animation clips for visual effects in both game engines. All right.